From the block to the boardroom, from the pulpit to the pew, the CQ podcast exists to help you raise your cultural fluency by discussing how culture touches everything from a Christian worldview. Just like a fish swims in water, we swim in culture. So today we're swimming with KeJuan Robinson, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, happy to be back, you know.
We here. We're going to be talking about From the Block to the Boardroom, so tools that translate and help in cross-cultural work. Yeah. I am Will Plunk, lead pastor of Great City Church, executive director of the CQ Initiative, and KeJuan Robinson, a friend of the podcast right here. So how you feeling today, KeJuan?
Yeah, it's good. It's good to be back. You know, it's always good to come and chop it up with you. Excited to talk about From the Block to the Boardroom. It's also just really fun to say, From the Block to the Boardroom. You know what I mean? It's like, but no, I'm excited to chat, reflect on some experiences, and hopefully be helpful. So.
Yeah, that's how you know. One of the things I was thinking about, because I'm like, you know, we filming up here in my space, and you got your Nikes on. I got my Naruto slides. That's kind of blocking the boardroom.
Facts, yeah. A specific boardroom block, you know what I mean?
You don't know
which one is the which.
But it really is, as we were thinking about, this it's one of the values, you know, of CQ is From the Block to the Boardroom, thinking about wanting to have cross-cultural tools that actually help you. So we're not just talking about race and culture and ethnicity, but we're going, what does it look like to actually have tools and practical phrases and even practices that have worked and really helped shape us in how we do cross-cultural ministry and cross-cultural work. And so this has come about for us through a lot of heartache, really.
For sure.
And seasons where we have, as a church in particular, gone, what does it look like for us to not just talk about it, but be about it? Because we have always talked about race and culture and taught it, but there have been times where we get to moments where we're like, are we going to pay the cost to do cross-cultural work? So to kick off our time, though, I wanted to read a little passage from 1 Corinthians chapter 12. And I think this is a bars passage in regards to diversity and uniqueness and how to treat people, because oftentimes people think, okay, we should treat everybody the same.
Right.
And there's a good view of that, or the intention is often good, but oftentimes it represents not recognizing how important differences are.
Right.
So anyways, in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, this is the classic passage on the body and what does it look like to relate as the body of Christ, which is the church. Paul writes, "The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you. And the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem weaker are indispensable. And the parts we think are less honorable, we treat with special honor. And the parts that are unpresentable are treated with special modesty." And so his point really is that in the Church of Corinth, there's division around spiritual gifts. Some are more highly valued, and there's jealousy. And the parts that are often actually treated as the least in the church, which you could think like the lady who comes and cleans up or sets stuff up, or the prayer lady in the back rather than the upfront person.
Right.
The people who actually often are treated at the least honor deserve special honor and are supposed to be treated like that. Yeah. Which means you don't treat everybody the same.
Right.
Like you actually treat people different based on their uniqueness, not less or greater love, but you relate to them differently. Yeah. And so I feel like that's an important passage to frame our conversation today.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's really important to think about that, because I think there's a lot of qualms with that element of, we should be treating people the same. You know what I mean? It's like, what does this mean that we're going to be extra intentional to this demographic? Or what does this mean that we're going to be extra intentional to this group of people?
Sounds like favoritism.
Yeah, right. It's like, you know, they can't do that. It's like y'all just putting somebody on a pedestal. Like, what are you doing? But I do think that passage is really good, because it just shows that there's like a gospel call to, like we are supposed to like be respecting and thinking about and being intentional with people according to their uniqueness and difference, rather than just being like, it's an even playing field. Like we're just gonna do everything the same with everybody.
Right. And I think one of the things you're saying popped in my head was that when it comes to practices, some people often think about, rightfully so, hiring. And in white normative spaces, a lot of times when a person of color is hired, they go, did you just hire them because they're Black?
Right.
And you can go, treating them special. So I'm going to hire just a Black person just because we need a Black person. And I think that what I want to say to that is there's not a kind of cross-cultural competency and what that Black person actually has to offer. Oftentimes the values in the organization are based on one cultural group,
Mm-hmm.
like the values of a singular cultural group. And so the value that the person color brings might not be the exact same values this cultural group values, but it's a whole different set of strengths and skills
Right.
that help the organization. But those are the kind of questions we're going to talk about
For
today.
sure.
So for us, again, we serve at the same church.
Yep.
And there was a season where before our church was actually multi-ethnic, where I really felt an unction from the Lord, I would say, through prayer to be like, we can't just be talking about this life of diversity in a multi-ethnic church. Like, we got to be about it. And it really, to the point, is like, well, how do we do it? We've prayed about it a lot. We've talked a lot about it. We taught about it. We believe in it. But what are we going to do? And so there was this moment where sociologists define a multi-ethnic church as at least no more than 80% of one ethnic group representing the church.
Right.
And so I very much remember looking back, praying, thinking back, coming to a meeting. KeJuan's in this meeting, right? It's our staff. And I'm feeling led for us to just commit 6 months to a season to fight to be a multi-ethnic church. And at that point, we were 90-10, meaning 90% white, 10% POC, people of color.
Yep.
And so I remember sitting at this table.
It's very intense.
Very intense. And I had all the staff. They was getting confused whether I was going to get them to stand up or sit down.
Right.
But I think I said, everybody stand up first.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hey, if you're committed to fighting for our church to be a multi-ethnic church, sit down and we're going to go together. But if not, stand up. And like, basically, you're not going to be a part of what we're about to do.
Yeah.
And really, I was like, to be committed is one, to believe that the scriptures teach it. Like, you don't need more convincing. You believe the scriptures teach it, and that it's going to be good for our church. But two, I remember saying that I believe the Lord has brought the right team for us to do it. And then three, like, we're going to pray like we've never prayed before and do things like we've never done before so that our church grows to become a legitimate multi-ethnic church in 6 months, like a timeline. And praise God, KeJuan sat down as a part.
I did. Through some nice, intense, quickly prayer and encouragement. I was like, you know what, I am in for this. You know what I'm saying? But it is super easy to feel like you're not like equipped for the work, and it's super easy to feel like the task itself, especially historically, given where we are, like in the country, being in Charleston. It's like, man, it's easy to just see that as just like this massive mountain to climb. And like, what do I have to give? What do I have to offer? But really having a team, including a leader that really believed in me and us, it's like, no, we actually can do this. So it was really cool, really hard time, but the Lord obviously did it. But yeah, that's been great.
He did. We learned a lot too.
For sure.
We learned a lot. We got some new tools that I think are very helpful.
Yeah.
We made a lot of mistakes. But by the end,
we did.
The Lord blessed us.
Yeah.
We have a multi-ethnic church now. But you said something, speak to feeling not equipped. Because I think even before we talk about tools, for many people, it can be like, well, maybe the tools are for them or those people or the leader of this. And maybe I'm listening right now and I don't really have a huge position of leadership in the church, or I don't really have a diverse background, or I've never really, I think the Bible teaches, like, speak to not feeling equipped, and how the Lord kind of working you in that.
Yeah, for sure. There's a couple sides that I feel like I think of when I look back. Part of it was really even experience in terms of like trying to turn around what an organization like looks like and feels like and operates like. I think I was just kind of just like nervous. It's like, what does that actually mean, and how can I have that level of impact? I think one of the things that can cause someone to feel like they're not equipped is just not a lack of belief in the vision, but more so a lack of belief in people to like believe in it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
It's like, oh, like if
you might believe in it, but what if these people aren't leading them?
Right. It's like the actual like people that are gonna go out and do like along with me. It's like, wait, like are people gonna be in for this? Is this just gonna like make everything turn around? Like, and that's a low faith thing, but also it's just like, it was a hard time. Like, we had conversations with people that weren't for it at different periods, and knowing that this was going to kind of shake stuff up. I think some of that's just fear, like, you know what I mean? And like not really knowing like, okay, like, what is this actually about to be like from that side of it. So there's that. But honestly, for me in the moment, it just felt like, how can I actually have that sort of impact? You know what I mean? It's like, how can I, and then when you have history, like I've been working for a couple of years at that point, of being here, doing the work, talking about it, teaching about it, whatever, you know, relating to people in it, to say, like, it felt like we were doing stuff, like, to a certain degree. So I was like, man, like, what is this about? Like, what is this about to look like?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what are the things? So really, I think it's like an unknown territory. Like, it felt like we were paving the way, or you were paving the way, the Lord was paving the way for something that we just had never done before.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what do I need? Like, what do we need? So honestly, I think a lack of equipness, I guess, in that case would be, like, how, like, what are the tools? Like, it's like not necessarily even knowing, like, what are the things there that, like, we can actually use to go and do this. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I was like, okay, like, all right, so what does this mean? Like, what we about to turn, like, we got some books, we got whatever, which we'll talk about a lot of that stuff. But I do think just even a lack of awareness of where to go. Because it's like, okay, you can Google a lot of stuff, especially at that time, you can chat whatever now, but
right.
you can Google a lot of stuff. It's like, I want to learn how to crochet. I want to learn how to crochet. Like, I want to do that. I just found a video.
This man made incredible hat.
I should have brought it with me.
It's so good.
But like, it's like, if I want to learn how to do that, if I want to know the steps in doing that, I might have never done it before, but it's like, okay, I can just go find out. There ain't really much out there. It's like, okay, how can you turn your 90-10 church to an 80-20 church in 6 months? Like, it's just like, it's just going to take some like intentional prayer, like creativity, planning. That's just like, it was an unknown path.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, facts, bro. And I was thinking a couple things. When I think of the quote, I forget who said it, but the best way to get a ship built isn't to give somebody instructions, but a yearning for the sea. Mm-hmm. So you have a yearning for the sea, but I always think about it too. It's like, if you have it's also going to get built way faster if you also have instructions on how to build a ship.
For sure.
So it's nice to have both.
Right.
And it's like, I think our staff and you, like, we had the desire,
yeah,
but it really, a lot of times there aren't instructions,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of people haven't. And sometimes the Lord has blessed the ministry or blessed an organization, and really they do have more of a multi-ethnic, multicultural space.
Yeah.
And it really was a miraculous move of God. And then there's others who have a yearning, but almost like a how do I do it? And so that's so true. It's like what are actually some of the tools? Some of the things the Lord birthed out of it for us was it's right here. We have these, like, it's 80-20 quotes. And so this was the season for us, but we got them, written down and things. And they were quotes that kind of helped guide us, almost like signposts, or I've heard Larry Osborne call them plumb lines that helped basically write our direction as a staff or an organization. And I think they provide some really helpful tools. Mm-hmm. Like, one is to eat the fish and spit out the bones. Yeah. And this was something that was very important to us. And how we mean it is when you take in information, sometimes there's good truth, nourishment, but there's going to be bones in it. Yep. And sometimes we found, even early on before this season of our church, is a lot of folk who had done a lot of the cross-cultural work were non-Christians. Right. So DEI, things like this, right? Like a lot of I would say good work for sure was done by non-Christians. But then if you give that type of work to a church or to a Christian organization, you go, well, do you believe everything? Right. And you're like, do I and that was providing confusion. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, well, what is our theological grounding in some of this stuff because of that work? And so we had to help teach our church to go, no, there are things that are good and things that are bad, and how do we help you create a lens to think through them, to recognize theologically all truth is God's truth, because Jesus is the truth. Theologically, Exodus 18, Moses is taught by Jethro on how to delegate to the people he lead and create order. This is affirmed in the narrative of the Exodus account. And Jethro was a non-Christian. Right. He was a non-Yahweh follower. He was his father-in-law. Yep. In Acts 17, you have Paul citing poets and philosophers, pagan poets and philosophers, and saying they were right. Mm-hmm. And then Paul does the same thing in Titus chapter 1 to Timothy about, and it's one of the funniest things, in my opinion, in the Bible, because he's quoting a pagan prophet and saying that he was right. And he says all Cretans are gluttons and liars or something like that. Right, and he was right.
Yes. Oh, wow, that's crazy.
But the point is really to say, and it's the doctrine of common grace, that you don't have to be a Christian to be right, or to say something that's true. And so really the best question is what's true, not just the source is important, but to say what's true. And so to try to help equip our people to think through, okay, we can use some of this stuff, and that doesn't mean it's bad. Yeah. But we do want to explicitly state the things that we disagree with. And so that was the thing, I think, even your organization, when you bring people in, you have different cultural groups to be able to say, we affirm this and we don't affirm this. But we can still actually work together or read this material and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's so important, because what you said about non-Christians putting out really good work, I think there has, in terms of the forefront of like justice, for example, it's like there's so much helpful literature out there that has been written for years and years. Like, this ain't a new thing, but it's like that non-Christians have been writing because they have seen the injustice of this world. But if we were to throw away all of that work to just be like, okay, like it wasn't written by a Christian, like we would miss out on how we can actually get this thing done. Because there's a lot of smart, real smart non-Christians that have done tons of study and tons of work, and just have lived on this earth and see the brokenness. And that's the thing about common grace. It's like God has sprinkled himself all over the place. Amen. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so truth really does exist in so many different areas, even if a person that is proclaiming it don't even know that it's God's truth, or disagrees that it's God's truth. You know what I'm saying?
That's so.
So yeah, I do think when you're a leader in an organization, especially a larger organization, it can be hard to be like, okay, how can I communicate this with enough nuance so everybody can hear that I don't agree with everything? And you kind of just have to let that go, like over time, you know? It's like, you got to be intentional with what you're using, thinking about how you're personally eating the fish, spilling out the bones. But as a leader, you also have to be like, man, like I can over communicate. It's like, this is not what we think completely, but this is what we see from this source. But then there's also this component of it that's like, okay, how can I just, like, I'm going to say that and then I'm going to just release it at that point. You know what I mean?
That's so good. And I think to the point of, like, we want to, if you give your people the tool, this is how we operate, a framework for common grace. We're just because we say it, like, we're not saying we agree everything with it. Even in my seminary, it's like the professors assign readings that they don't agree with, all of it at, but they just think it would be useful to engage with.
Yep.
And if people have that framework, then there is a higher tolerance of, okay, I can engage with this. I don't have to agree with everything. That's all right. Which actually helps people live in lives that are unified but not uniform. It's another one of our quotes.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if we're uniform, then we have to agree on everything. And so I can't be in a relationship with you if there's disagreement.
Yep.
But sometimes it's not just, I can't be in a relationship with you if there's disagreement. It's like, I can't be in a relationship with you if there's difference.
Yep.
If you want to worship this way, your style is this way.
Right.
My style is that way. And I think that actually gives a very diminished, small, truncated view of the gospel and the church.
Yep.
That is actually calling us to live together in unity, not uniformity.
Yeah, no, and I was just about to hit on that one too, because I think that right there is one of the biggest issues in terms of the pursuit of diversity, equity, and inclusion that we have, I would say. Yeah. Unity, not uniformity. So what do I mean by that? It's like, I think we have seen this increase in desire of what it looks like to pursue diverse spaces, diverse education, diverse churches, whatever it is. But a lot of people want those diverse spaces stripped from what actually makes it diverse.
Ooh,
you know what I'm saying?
That.
So it's like, it's just we want the presence of it. We want to be able to see the difference in the room. But we don't actually want the different expressions. We don't actually want the different backgrounds. We don't want the different experiences. So we do, a lot of people want this uniformity, which is just assimilation. It's just like, we just want people to come into this space and assimilate to the dominant culture here. But we can say it's a multicultural space because look around, you know what I mean?
It's like you want diversity without discomfort.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, you can't have diversity without discomfort. No. You're going to be uncomfortable if you're going to be able to live in a multicultural space.
Right. And that's No, I was going to say, and that's the thing. It's like our like addiction or our need for comfort and not wanting to say, like, not wanting to bring up the things. I mean, I'm a person that loves, I love harmony. Like, that's one of my strengths. That's one of my strengths on Strength Finder. Like, I love to kind of keep the peace. I don't want things to go in disarray, arguments and all that. But there has to be a level of acceptance to be like, hey, like, in order to actually do this thing that God has called us to do, I have to say, okay, I'm willing to walk through the heart of this. And that the heart of diversity, the heart of actual intentional relationship across cultures is going to mean that there's going to be hard things to do. Like, it's just like, there's going to be hard conversations. You're going to mess up. You're going to say some stuff that's whatever. But how do you actually walk and respond in that? Like, you know what I mean? Actually choosing, saying like, okay, I know that this is hard, but this is right.
Yeah, and that's the power of the gospel.
For sure.
Because when we love Jesus so much and we know our brother is made in the image of God and he's my brother in Christ, well, if I know that, then I can that allows me to look past a lot of offenses.
Mm-hmm.
It allows me to stay together, and it says something to the world.
Oh, for sure.
When our churches and our Christian organizations are actually more diverse than the secular institutions.
Mm-hmm.
But because secular institutions are beating us on so many things, or with diversity, it really is an indictment on Christians.
Oh, for sure.
That it's like they can get along with more differences than we can, even though we have Christ.
Right.
Even though we all recognize we were so torn up that Jesus had to die for our sins. Mm-hmm. In some ways, it's a huge indictment on the church. Yep. And I think, it's just, what does it look like for us to recognize my bond with Jesus and how he was to me, how he came to me when I was still a sinner and died for me, how he reconciled me when I was an aggressor towards him and an offender towards him, allows me to go, you know what? I might even be offended by your difference.
Yep.
I might still need some time to learn to accept that the way you express your prayer life is legitimate, even though it's different than mine. Yep. That the way you want to be taught the Word of God, the way that you relate to time, like all that might be legitimate, but right now it's offensive to me. Mm-hmm. But still, if I have Christ, I'm gonna be able to look over that offense.
Yep.
I was thinking about two with that, and kind of sliding into another one as well. Is just that the minority carries the majority of the burden.
Yep.
And this is something to the 1 Corinthians 12 piece. A lot of majority culture folk don't realize how much a person of color gives up to be in that space.
Yeah.
So I'd love that. Why don't you hit us with some thoughts on that?
Yeah, for
you
sure.
You have a lot of experience with that.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that is a lot of my experience. And I think, honestly, there was a time in my life where I feel like I didn't even really recognize that was a part of my experience, even seeing that was what the tension I was feeling, which would make it a lot easier to trend more towards assimilation and just kind of just settling and trying to keep the peace and whatever. But I'd say when I think about the minority carrying the majority of the burden, it's like if we are a church that we feel called and we believe that the Lord has called us to be multi-ethnic, multicultural, we have to also recognize that to come into that space as a person of color means that there is going to be components of it that is just going to be harder. Like it's like you are going to feel the tension of being the minority. So even that tension within itself, like having to represent something in a way, in this space, it's like that in itself is a harder burden to carry. Mm-hmm. Like the majority doesn't walk in and feel that same tension. Mm-hmm. Same thing with a small group. It's like if you are coming into this space, it's like you are the one that is carrying this weight of being the minority in this space. It is harder for you to step into this space than for everybody else to.
Yeah.
So it's like that's just felt in multicultural spaces, and like people don't even really recognize it because they don't think about all the internal dynamics of what it means to be the minority in a majority space. But because like simply based on the fact that they're the minority and they're so that's their experience, and it feels like just like it is all encompassing. It's like no, that is burdensome. Like that is a hard thing to do. To say I'm going to say no to what is historically safe in being an all Black space. Think about Black focus in church. It's like maybe it's your experience that's like I grew up in a Black church, and it's like historically safe haven, like community hub. And it's like, but I know I'm feeling this stirring like from the Lord that He might be calling me to a multi-ethnic space. You are surrendering things. You are surrendering things by saying, I'm gonna choose to do this.
But what if someone's like, okay, but what are they really surrendering? I get it's a safe space, but like they seem happy.
Yeah.
Like I just like
right.
And we're being so intentional with them, and we're kind of doing everything we know how to do. Mm-hmm. Like, and they're not really saying much to me. Like maybe somebody who's even in an organization who's got a Black person on their team.
Yeah.
And they're like,
yeah. It's like, I don't know. Yeah.
Alex never said nothing to me.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't matter. He cool. We cool with it. We're chilling. I think one thing that can hurt with that assumption is that some people, I'll even speak for myself. It's like, I don't know if I even recognize the different things that I felt internally until somebody asked me the questions. So I think some people in organizations, in a majority culture, thinking if you're a white person, it's like, oh, like it should be cool. He ain't never brought nothing up. Yeah. It's like, I wonder what it would seem like if conversations were presented or if questions were asked to actually see like, hey, what did this feel like? Because there's so many things that somebody might say or somebody might just naturally mention, or a joke that somebody might throw around in the office or whatever, that a black person in a majority space, and it's like, I don't even know if this is worth it for me. Like, this is worth my time.
So if I'm a white leader in an organization, should I walk up to the POC? Let's say his name's Alex. Should I walk up to him and be like, so how do you feel being black here? Like what am I supposed to do?
What does that look like?
Yeah, what do you do?
For sure. I think there is a way in which you can have a conversation. I think there is a lot around relationship that I would say it has to start. Like, you can't, like, I, as a black person myself.
So if I never talked about nothing deep, I go, like,
right? If you just trying to jump straight in, you know what I'm saying? It's like, no, I don't think that's necessarily how it should work. I think if you have some form of relationship with a person and just really say like, hey, like, in my organization, like, for example, our church, it's like, there was a time at our church where it was 90-10, very heavy majority white. So I would encourage somebody that had a relationship with someone to be like, hey, what does it look like for you to just like take them out to lunch, or like just like say, hey, I know that this could be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because that's you got to put yourself in that position to be uncomfortable. Not to say you just walk up to somebody and dump a bunch of questions on them, because that is tense and you don't need to do that.
So I'll grab them out the cubicle.
Right. Yeah. Just grab them real quick. But it's like, what does it look like to say, hey, I'm trying to, like, I want our organization to grow. Like, I want to grow personally, and say, hey, like, what does this look like for you? What does this mean for you? Has there ever been times where like tension, as the conversation progresses, obviously you can go wherever you feel led to in the conversation. But I do think creating space to be heard, because it's like knowing that it may not feel like a safe space. So it's like kind of just taking steps towards like, how can I actually create this space? But you also can't force it. You know what I mean? You can't force somebody into the light with that stuff. It's like, it could be a slow journey. But I do think taking like baby steps towards initiating that conversation, knowing that conversation could increase or create tension that wasn't there before. Yeah. But knowing that if you think for your organization that this is the point, multicultural multicultural organization, a multicultural leadership, all of these things is what you want. You have to be willing to sacrifice that comfort in exchange for that tension, so y'all can actually grow.
I think too, like, that's a very relational way to do it. And I think if you're a leader, there's also ways to do it that you can create. You can have a survey that's anonymous. Yeah. You can provide the context to say, hey, here, just be explicit about your presuppositions. Like, hey, we want to grow. Right. I'm not actually asking you to represent all Black people or all Hispanic people. What I'm trying to do is just to say, hey, I want to learn. Yep. So I would love for you to speak to your experience, just your personal experience. You don't have to represent your whole culture, ethnic group. And I think there's ways like that too to start it and to frame it, that's something you're going to pursue. So they even know, and that can even help, to your point, create the comfort that they might even be more willing. Like, if they have a leader who they believe is trying to create space, then they might, even if you don't ask the right question, if you build trust in time, they might even come to you. Yep. And really, if you're from the majority culture in leadership and you don't have people in your organization who feel safe enough with you, comfortable enough with you, trust you enough to come to you and share when you overlook something, there is no way that you've created a safe place for POCs to thrive. Right. Like, you have to have people who go, that they gonna say something. Yes. And just to be real, we all have presuppositions and prejudice. Right. So if nobody is speaking to you about how you fall short sometimes, or about like things you've overlooked, for sure, then the truth is it's probably way worse than you could imagine. For sure, it's worse. But let's talk about this because one of the things too is like, okay, hiring. We mentioned earlier. Do you just hire this is the thing. You just hired a Black person. Would you take it? This is how hear people frame all the time. Do you hire, for this is a majority cultural organization, do you hire the Black person who is a B- if you could hire a white person who is an A+? Like, do you just go, I'm gonna take one and I'm gonna hire the worst? Like, they're not gonna be as confident that they're Black, so I'm just gonna hire the Black person who's a B-, even though the white person's an A+.
You want me to answer?
No, I can't. I got
a thought. But
I think I'll say the question's framed wrong.
For sure.
It's like based on, I think that question in of itself shows ignorance, which is
For
okay.
sure.
We're all ignorant in a way. But it shows an ignorance that is probably not accounting for what CQ is all about. That cross-cultural competency needs to be on the job description to begin with.
Right.
And you don't have competency just because you're Black.
Right.
But if you are from a cultural group, it is most likely that you have more competency with that cultural group than somebody else who is not as familiar or from that cultural group.
Right.
And so I think there are experiences that people of color have in our country that do build capacity. Same way with white people have experiences in our country that build different capacities. But because of that shapes the way you even think about your organization. And the question really is like, do you value cross-cultural competency? Mm-hmm. Are you trying to reach not only Black people, but a people of diverse economic situation? Are you like, what are you trying to do with your organization? Are your goals really to reach and to be effective in the majority culture? Or is it to be effective cross-culturally?
Right.
Like to me, that's the question you got to think
for
about.
sure. And I think, it's like, it's way deeper than those two examples. You know what I'm saying? Because like, you have to think about your organization's goals, but also it's like, what do we need as an organization? If you listen to this podcast, it's like, you probably know what, you think it's something about this. But I do think it's important to say, like, how can I recognize, like, okay, I know that there's so much nuance here, but I have to be willing to ask the questions to even understand. It's like, so they can even know, like, this is going to be a part of what we're doing here. You know what I'm saying? Like, being cross-culturally competent is something that you don't need to be an A+ in when you start, but it's like, no, this is something that we all want to be continuing to grow in. So I think that even shifts like the type of applicants that you bring in. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Like, it's like you are getting a different pool of people saying like, no, this is something that I want to be that's like integrated in my work, integrated in what I get to do for my 9 to 5 or whatever.
Yes.
So I do think there's so much nuance there that people want to simplify the question to kind of dismiss the actual issue. You know what I'm saying? It's like people can ask that question just to kind of say like, all right, so what would you do this? You want a terrible organization because you want out of the geese of diversity? But that's not what it is. So I think it's just important for us to just continue to think about all the elements and components of that.
I love that because I do think there is, again, another false dichotomy that if you have diversity, you have to give up effectiveness.
Right.
And our training in the intercultural development inventory really says the opposite. Mm-hmm. It has a framework, and it really shows how organizations that are from the majority culture, but have or are mono-ethnic, that they are often more effective than a multicultural team that has not learned to work together. But a multicultural team who's learned to work together is way more effective than a monocultural team. Yeah. Because you've developed diversity capacities and cross-cultural competencies and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. No, yeah. I think it's really cool just thinking about the ways that I've been personally impacted by that too. Because there's so many different things that come into play in terms of workplace and how you grow. But I have really seen and felt, and even through the IDI, like getting qualified with that, it's like, no, there is a direct benefit. There's a direct benefit and growth to an organization. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? It's not, there's interpersonal growth, which I think is good. One of the things we talked about is like, we want our lives to be, we want to be pursuing a diversity that does not just start with our church, but it starts at the dinner table. So it's like, we want to be that for our interpersonal lives, but also just seeing that, now there's data to say that like a team that is multicultural, that is growing in these multicultural competencies, is actually going to create a more thriving organization. Yeah. I had an experience a few years back where we were trying to pick speakers for an organization, just like, how are we going to bring in different teachers and pastors? And one of the people that was on my team was like, I don't want to sacrifice theological soundness for diversity. And I remember when he said that, I was like, wait, does this mean that there's a correlation between what's theologically sound and ethnicity? Because I was like, that don't feel right at all to me. But even hearing that, there's so many people that have this perspective of diversity that means that you lack in quality, or you lack in knowledge, or you lack in or whatever it is, where it's just like, no, like we see that that's not true. We know that that's not true. Yeah. So yeah, I just think
that's dope. And I mean, I think that shows how a lot of people view it. Is like, you do have to sacrifice theology or intelligence if you promote diversity, which really shows a prejudicial view.
For sure. Absolutely.
Straight up. Like that.
Yeah.
So anyways, let's rapid fire these last couple ones.
Yeah,
right? So we got one I wanted to say was, here it is. Building a bridge means you're walked on by both sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no, I can hit it quick.
Rapid fire.
Yeah, no, I got it. So when you are committing to this type of work, when you're committing to be a cross-culture bridge builder, you have to understand that the majority and the minority are going to be walking on you. What's that mean? It's like, hey, I'm gonna be an attacher. I want to be somebody that creates this space for these cultures to be in a cross-cultural space. You have to understand that there's going to be offense on both sides. There's going to be tensions on both sides. Even thinking about the burden that's carried, there's that side of it. There's also this part of it that's like, the minority may feel like you as a leader ain't doing enough. The majority feels like you doing too much. That's specific. That's favoritism, and kind of understanding that this type of work is going to bring up those types of tensions and conversations. But that's not bad. Right. It's not bad. Knowing, part of it. Yeah, because as people are walking, they're getting closer into that cross-cultural space. So that's what we're here for.
Amen. The last one I'll hit with is diversity speeds up discipleship, and I think just the understanding that when you get different people together. You have a much better chance of growing, just like 1 Corinthians 12 says, because you have different gifts, different backgrounds, different strengths coming together. But it doesn't all look like rainbows and butterflies. Like coming together, the way it speeds up discipleship is through rubbing, it's through tension. Like the Bible says, iron sharpens iron. Yep. It's really through the frustrations that we grow and we become better. Yeah. When I don't know how to articulate my position or my opinion, or like why I think we should sing this many songs, or we should sing them like this, or why I think our teaching should be this way because you think teaching should be that way, or why I think our meetings should be like structured in this way and you think that way, or whatever. When we have different opinions, a couple things happens. One, it rubs me. Two, I'm forced to articulate why I think the way I think, which helps me go, do I think why I think just because I think it or because it's in the Bible? Is it optional or is it not? Yeah. And then I also am able to adapt and go, oh, maybe they have a perspective I haven't thought about before. And as I wrestle with my prejudice or just my opinions or strengths or personality, I get refined by somebody else's. Yeah. And so it really does. And we've seen that. I think since we have been a more multi-ethnic, multicultural church, we have also seen, I would say, an increased level of discipleship and growth from our members. Yeah, absolutely. You don't get that same discipleship. You don't get to see those elements of who God is working and how He's working through His people when you're only in a monocultural space. You literally are missing out. You literally are missing out. So I totally agree with that. Yeah, well, that's the word to go. Is you're missing out if you don't do this work. For sure. And I think that's it. It's like no shame, but it's just there is a lot that God has in store when you start doing this work. So that's from the block to the boardroom. Yep. We did it, bro. Yeah, man. So, hey, be blessed. And it's always fun talking. Yep. Appreciate you.